Customers don't get their prices fast enough. They want more information about the product and the specifications. They get the wrong product, so requirements and managing specifications. So there are all these issues, and any business today, any normal business, even digital businesses that are 100% native digital, there's a way to improve them.
Welcome to VezaTalks podcast. Today, I'm super excited to have Karim Sahyoun on our podcast. And a little bit about Karim. He's a digital transformation expert with extensive experience working with GCC government agencies and enterprises to digitize and modernize their internal and external processes. After 28 years of deep operational experience in digital startups, the public sector, blockchain, manufacturing, transport, logistics, retail, and other verticals, Karim is currently building startups in the fintech and digital asset categories, including several of his own startups and platforms. Welcome.
Thank you, Mario. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So, I was really excited to see your bio, and there's a lot on there that I'm really interested in, especially the fintech and digital asset components and blockchain, which I'm really interested in. But before we dig into that, tell me, Karim, where are you originally from? And I saw that you went to McGill in Canada. I'm a fellow Canadian as well, but maybe you can let us know your journey from childhood.
Yeah, we'll try and keep it brief. Pleasure, Mario. I'm born in Lebanon. My parents have German. My dad has German roots. My mom has Palestinian and Armenian roots. And I grew up in Dubai. And then once I was done with school, I went to Canada to study engineering. Ended up working in Canada for a while, and then I moved to the Caribbean, to Haiti. I spent 11 of my years in Haiti, getting married, and I have a beautiful daughter who's now in Montreal as well, studying in university. And I'm back in Dubai since now probably, I think, 15 years, and I've dabbled in various businesses. And I think in the last 9 years, I really got into consulting and digital. And worked a lot on various projects here in the region, including the Dubai Metro extension for the Expo, various government agencies, large digital transformation programs in Abu Dhabi mostly. And currently I am working in Abu Dhabi for a fund. It's a venture studio, which is an interesting business model. We can maybe discuss that. And I'm involved in basically helping them launch a couple of ventures in digital assets and fintech.
Amazing. So before we even talk about that, I myself love the progression of the UAE, Dubai in particular, and obviously Abu Dhabi, and what appears to be Saudi now as well. Tell our viewers a little bit about, 15 years ago, Dubai was the up and coming, lots of promises, that kind of stuff, I imagine. And, what was that like going there 15 years ago versus now,
Yeah, I mean, Dubai epitomizes so many things that, countries strive to achieve. I think Dubai and Abu Dhabi as well. The UAE overall, very wise leadership, very progressive, and they really care about their people, and they want to modernize. And I think this is the model to follow for enterprises, right? To be agile, to want to modernize, to keep your team, your human capital up to date, keep them trained, and continuously try to improve and become more efficient and adopt. They've adopted digital as a government. It was mobile, then it became e-government, and now digital. And I've been involved in some of these programs. And as we know, anyone in the digital transformation space, it is hard. But they've overcome and they continuously improve. And Dubai and Abu Dhabi have become places where people want to come and live because of the infrastructure, the logistics, the security, and this wonderful environment that welcomed blockchain and cryptocurrency companies. They're still very careful. They want to make sure that any company that operates is regulated, in that space is regulated and follows the rules, because as we know right now, we've seen some of the the big stories and the headlines, and it is a risk, but they're approaching it with very, very say solid foundations in regulatory protocols and rules, and yeah, I think they're doing it right. I mean, I grew up here before going to university, and I've seen the evolution of this nation, and it's home. My parents have been here for the last 48 years. I've been here on and off for that long as well, and I choose to live here by choice. I mean, I'm Canadian, as you know. I love Canada, but I thought, you know, I came back here to work.
It's so interesting. I mean, myself, I was actually raised in Germany until I was 14, and then I moved to Canada. And, having lived in the United States as well, and for 10 years, having done business there, looking at the world landscape, everything is pointing towards the Middle East. And it baffles me to see the Western countries not adopting crypto, not adopting blockchain, not adopting some of these forward-thinking models. Why do you think the Western world is, digging their heels in and saying, no, we can't allow this to happen and whatnot? Like, what's the difference? Is Dubai, do they want to just like bite into a greater portion of the pie and they're taking more risk, or do you think it's something else?
I think it's the legacy. I think these nations in the West that are currently concerned about crypto, I think they have this huge legacy, right? The banking system is so big, and the pension systems, and so much depends on that. And the U.S. is still the reserve currency of the world, in spite of the recent, let's say, Instagram posts we've been seeing about de-dollarization. The yuan is actually pegged to the dollar. So Dubai, I think the UAE has just been more agile. They have less history, right, in that sense, and they have less to risk. And the disruption that the West are scared of is not really an issue over here. And the UAE and Saudi are very, very rich in natural resources, as we know. And for the last, I don't know, 10 years at least, they've been trying to move their economy from relying solely on these natural resources and moving towards a more service economy and digital, so that once these natural resources run out or become less desirable, they're still competing on the world stage.
Right. I just can't. I can't imagine having heard so much about Saudi as I have in the last month or 2 months. I'm really interested to hear your opinion about their ambitious goals. They have the 2030 Noam city, and they got obviously Ronaldo playing there now, which is unimaginable a couple of years ago, right? So are they just throwing money at anything and see if it sticks, or what is your opinion about the ambitious plans of Saudi Arabia? I'm fascinated by that. I can't wait to go to Riyadh ASAP and just check it out.
I was there a year ago doing a project with Saudi Post on a joint venture. So they've created the people that I was working with and Saudi Post have created a joint venture, a digital venture. So they're trying to overcome some of the challenges of government entities by creating these PPPs, public-private partnerships, that are really a great vehicle for progress, right? These have existed for a long time all over the world, and here they're adopting them, and it allows these government entities to progress and avoid some of the challenges of procurement, per se, and other things. And I'm really excited about what's happening in Saudi Arabia. My time there, I spent a month working with Saudi Post and working with the IT department, helping them become a digital IT department and seeing how we could shift some of the team from that entity to the new entity. And what amazed me was the young women that were educated, master's degrees, perfect English, and really they had ownership, let's say, of what's happening, and they feel completely empowered to change their country, and it's really great to see that because you know. I think that's what's happening in Saudi. I think the youth have been empowered and they're fully engaged. In spite of all the other issues and noise, Saudi is moving towards modernizing its economy and digitizing and using whatever means available to speed that up. They have hundreds of, I don't know how many consultants are there working to build and speed up the progress and leverage the natural beauty of the country. I mean, this country it's huge. Places we've never seen, we've never heard of before. You know, the Red Sea project, Neom, Al Ula, and you see pictures and it's stunning. And they even have snow, which, you know, is something we didn't know. I mean, until I went to their Expo Pavilion. So I'm very excited about what's happening in Saudi. I'm excited for the UAE as well because these countries here, you know, have been home for me for a long time, my family, and it's great to see them, you know, shine at the world stage, at the world level, and I'm really excited for the future.
That's amazing. I mean, I'm excited to explore that, you know, part of the world even further, and yeah, just almost unreal kind of you know, developments, right? Another thing I wanted to talk to you about. I saw that you were a senior project manager for Further Ventures, which was the world's most advanced, regulated, and insured digital and custody solution. So that really intrigued me. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you know, what the challenges were and what the whole point of it was? I mean, you know, was it to just you know, bring blockchain to a family office, or what was that like? I'm super curious about that.
I'm currently involved in that project, so I'm not too comfortable talking about it too much. There are partners at Further Ventures that would be better versed, and I could connect you to them. But I think essentially what we're trying to do is legitimize cryptocurrency and start to address some of the issues that institutions are facing, let's say, to secure these assets using technology that exists before. It's IBM technology. It's called secret computing, and it allows institutions to basically configure policy, their delegation of authority, which is basically their rules about how assets can be moved, right, onto a system and be able to secure those assets. And it's very exciting to be part of that project. It's going to be a regulated entity and it's going to be insured. So you get that level of assurance that we know as individuals who invest in crypto how, you know, you could lose your keys, you could lose your you know, you could easily get hacked and so forth. We're trying to remove that, let's say, that risk and bring that level of assurance that's required by institutions. And hopefully this is what's going to be a huge stepping stone for crypto worldwide.
Right. I'm really intrigued by that. I mean, I've been part of crypto since, I'd say, 2015, 16. And, you know, even now, you know, 7, 8 years later, I still find myself looking for, you know, which wallet did I use? Did I put it onto this? Did I put, you know, what are my key? What's the password? I mean, I can't even imagine just a regular, call it a regular person that wants just to buy some crypto and where do they store it and what do they do with it? I mean, it's, you know, I say eventually in whether it's 10 or 20 years, it's just going to be one button and, you know, it'll be very similar to banking now. So in your opinion, you know, where do you see, you know, do you feel like Bitcoin will be the standard? Do you feel like ETH? Do you feel like, you know, what is going to be the main stable currency? Because, you know, as we know, some of the stable currencies are not so stable after all. What is your opinions about that?
Yeah, I mean, this is a hot button topic. We all have our opinions. I believe that decentralization is key, and when we look at different cryptocurrencies, we should look at how decentralized they are. We all have our favorites, the people, you know, and it's sometimes it's an emotional, so it's not very objective. It could be very subjective. Obviously, Bitcoin is the first one, and we all, I think, most of us have this attachment to it, and it's really interesting. I mean, definitely something that I admire. You know, I recommend people to read the Bitcoin white paper and, you know, ask questions and get involved and understand how, you know, but I'm going to share with you probably what I shared with Aziz last time. I said I feel like in crypto right now we're at the very, very beginning, very beginning. And when I'm talking about that, it could go back to cavemen, where someone, and the metaphor is that someone realized that if you took a boulder and you took off the sharp edges, that you could roll it more easily, somehow. But the wheel hasn't been invented, the turbine hasn't been invented, cars and so forth. So we're very, very early on, but the acceleration is going to happen very quickly. So this technology, this ability to interact, to transact through the internet securely, is fundamental, right? It's a watershed moment, but we still don't know what's going to happen. We still don't know what we're going to design. We still don't know the kind of platforms and applications that are going to come on top of it. Who would have thought that, when the internet was invented, and I started, in the mid 90s, right, with a modem and connecting and getting an email address and so forth. Who would have thought that, we'd be sharing locations via WhatsApp and ordering food and being able to track the motorcycle delivering your food to you? No one could have, some people did imagine it, but would have, it's crazy. And that amount of progress happened from 1995 to today. We're in 2023. That's almost 30 years. But I think we're going to see these let's say, improvements and changes happen much quicker.
Much quicker, absolutely. I agree with you. I mean, I remember, having a Commodore VIC-20 and having a 9600 baud modem and, and looking at, basic, little dot going across and whatnot, it was just crazy. And the same conversations I feel I had when e-commerce came about, and people are like, no, who's going to buy anything online? I'm not putting my credit card in there. So now that we have this digital adoption, I think that you're right. It's going to go much, much quicker, and I'm excited about it. I mean, I'm still preaching to my friends, but it's, it just seems like the Middle East is adopting so much quicker. And I even watched a video today, and this guy went into a dealership and bought a Porsche 911 GT3 with Bitcoin, and it was literally like minutes, like it was just unimaginable in Europe or North America. It's just awesome. I even took the clip and I put it into my videos. So one of the things I guess that you do is you create digital platforms, or maybe you use digital platforms to supercharge existing businesses. So can you talk a little bit about that? So which businesses in particular do you digitalize, or is it all of them? Which ones are maybe your preferred ones? And how do you achieve supercharge status, so to speak?
That's a very interesting question. I've been digitizing since I was a teenager. I remember convincing my mother to buy me a Commodore Amiga after my Commodore 128, and the Amiga I think at the time was probably $2,000, and that was in the mid 80s. And then she said, "Why should I? Why? What are you going to do with this?" And I said, "Oh, well, you have a business. You're going to be able to manage your customers' data. This is CRM. Before CRM existed as a term, right?" So
Yep.
And then when I moved to Haiti, one of the businesses I worked in didn't have a point of sale, and that was the first thing I did. I went and I found a point of sale software, and I started to digitally transform the business so that we had online price lists, so that we could issue invoices, digital invoices, and link to an accounting software, rather than doing books by hand, which in Haiti at the time was a standard. And then I became a port director, and the company that I worked for, which was publicly traded at the time, a U.S. company, they were asking us as the managers to shift customers from coming to the office to using the website. So that was digital transformation before that term was even prevalent, right? How do we get people to go online and communicate online rather than coming to the office to get their documents, and so transacting online? And then, when Facebook started, I had a small business and I was using Facebook to drive business to my store, and that's digital marketing, right? So, I've been involved at all these stages, and really thinking hard and trying to leverage these digital tools to improve business, right? Improve efficiency, be able to delight and have richer communications, right? With video and emails and images. Content creation at the time wasn't what it is today. And content creators today are amazing. I mean, today I love cooking, and I follow these digital creators that they don't know how to cook, but they learn how to chop, and then they create a video and they take a recipe and boom, they're demonstrating how to cook a recipe with sound and visual effects. And these guys are amazing content creators, and that's what they are. Now, is the recipe any good? I don't know. Could be, but they're very good at creating content. They're very talented in using cameras and video and sound to engage. And we talk about the attention economy. They know how to get the eyeballs, right? So that has value. And when we say supercharge businesses, you look at a business today and you can easily spot bottlenecks. You can see deliveries are slow. Drivers are taking too long to find the location that they're going to. Customers don't get their prices fast enough. They want more information about the product and the specifications. They get the wrong product, so requirements and managing specifications. So there are all these issues, and any business today, any normal business, even digital businesses that are 100% native digital, there's a way to improve them. And I think some of us have the skill. It makes us seem a little bit negative because we always find problems, but we're also suggesting solutions, and that's what I do. I think sometimes I consider myself to be a kind of digital fixer for enterprises, right? So being able to look and see what can be done, right? And the problem is that I've seen, right? People know, managers, owners, business owners, and employees, they know that digital will help, but they don't know how to go about it the right way. There's so many tools out there. Where do you begin? How do you do that? How do you select the right tool? And then how do you implement it properly? And this is where we come in. It's not that straightforward, right? It's not, you don't just walk into a shop, buy a hammer, buy some nails. It's a bit more complex. So, and now with so many, specific tools, niche tools that, address specific use cases, which one do you use? How do you, if you look at the big ERPs, the Oracles, the SAPs, configuring those systems is more complicated than actually designing and building new systems for the business. So you find a lot of small businesses tend to code or build their own tools. And I always say, if I'm going to drive on the highway, I'm not going to drive in a car that's built in a workshop. I'm going to go to best practices, right? I want to drive Toyota or Honda or Mercedes or BMW. I want that best practice. I want that quality. I want to be sure that the wheels are not going to fly off. When you have a big business or you have a government entity, you cannot afford to use homemade, homemade products, let's say homemade, artisanal products, coded without best practices, without standards. And why are we reinventing the wheel? When we pay for an SAP or an Oracle, we're not just buying the software, we're buying the best practices of the industry, because they serve multiple businesses in that field. So they've gone and they've checked and they've taken all that time and put that effort. And also we're buying the quality, right? So depending on the size of the business, depending on the application, depending on the challenge, you need to know what to do. You need to know, should you go for a smaller software? Should you go for a bigger software? Maybe a bigger software, but just one module. So there are many elements, right? Many questions to answer when you're when you're selecting tools to automate your business. And and one of the things that I've learned to do, because I've worked for some really interesting companies in the past, and I've learned a lot, is that we look at a business as a bunch of capabilities. We call it architecture, right? We look at, what does this company do? The business architecture, it sounds complicated, but basically it's a bunch of capabilities or activities that happen in that business, and we list them. We organize them almost like Lego blocks, And then we start to say, well, these Lego blocks will be automated by this software. These will be automated by this software. So in the end, you get like a digital canvas, and you're able to organize how you are organizing your business, how you're digitizing, and how you're modernizing. Because every 2-3 years, you should be, continue. I mean, it's a non-stop process. A large organization,
Absolutely.
a bank, a large company, even a small company like a school, should always be looking at how to improve and how to update. And a software has a shelf life. After a certain number of years,
Absolutely.
if you have a SaaS software, then they're doing the updates in the cloud, right? And they're offering it to you as updates, as patches, and so forth. And if you have a on-premise software, you need to either download the new version, okay, or you need to possibly change. So it's continuously changing. There's continuous work that's happening, and we can never sit still, and we can never relax too long for a business. And
Right.
these are some of the challenges that I think businesses, and I'm trying to be as generic as possible.
Sure. No, it's very true. I mean, I was part of the very first PPP project here in Serbia about 8 years ago, and they had never done it before, and so it was absolutely challenging to go through the bureaucracy and everything that was happening. And in the end, we did not succeed. I learned a lot, but having this kind of old school attitude in a lot of these countries is so detrimental towards technology and moving forward, right? And that brings me to my next point, and that is startups. So I've had 5 startups in my life, and I was wondering how somebody like you, who goes into existing businesses and existing governments, if there's any synergy in startups. Is that something that interests you? I know there was something about a fintech and digital asset startup, but can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, startups are very interesting, right? They're digitally native usually, and small starts with a small team, and yeah, I mean, they face challenges. Obviously, usually startups face funding challenges, and I think the venture studio model is resolving that, because the venture studio comes in with the funding overall, and they're able to create and build it up and build and hire the founders and push it through. So resolves that issue. And it's a very interesting model, and that's the model that Further Ventures has adopted, and I'm very, very excited to be working with them and helping them on several of these ventures. Coming back to this to startups, I mean, listen, there's so many kinds of startups, and I'm sure you've met many people, many founders. They usually have an idea. Sometimes they come from a consulting background, sometimes they come from a technical background. And there's always challenges. It might be a skill gap. It might be, a product market fit challenge. It might be a timing challenge where they're coming too soon, right? Sometimes they're leveraging existing technology that still is not up to par. But one of the biggest challenges, I think, is about adoption, right? It's how to get people to change. And this is a topic that I extensively work on, the human side of technology, which is looking at the user. And will they use a product? Like today, cryptocurrency is obviously facing that challenge. Soon we're going to have flying cars, Electric cars are facing some of these issues. You hear people talking about electric cars. It's exciting, but then a friend of mine took a road trip from Holland to Switzerland, and instead of 6 hours, it took 18 hours because the charging stations were so busy. So, to me, it's a very broad topic. I'm very interested. I have a couple of startup ideas myself that I'm kind of incubating and trying to launch, and it is leveraging the smart contract capability of digital assets and NFTs, not as art, not as music, but using that built-in smart contract that can be coded into an NFT to improve a couple of value chains. One is in the influencer marketing space, and the other one is in the online food ordering space. And I don't want to talk too much about it because I'm still in the pitching phase, and we're preparing. But hopefully hopefully we can have another chat about it when we've launched or when we've secured some funding.
Absolutely. That sounds really, really exciting. That's great. Well, we're going to wrap it up soon, but I always have one question that I ask all my guests, and that is, if you were in my shoes and you would have asked yourself a question that I didn't ask, what would that be?
That's really interesting. I think that this we've become digital nomads, right? So I was talking to my niece today, and I recommended a book called The Sovereign Individual. I think it's basic reading for most people studying crypto and blockchain, and it is, how do you imagine the world? How do we imagine the world in 10 years? Where are we going to live? How are we going to work? Are we going to work in the metaverse? I imagined that. I think the pandemic kind of brought that home for us. We were, on Zoom calls, and I thought, what if I was in Bali, but I'm checking into the metaverse in New York, into an office, and so for me, it's really about thinking, what's our work going to be like? How do we interact as humans in this new economy? And what are some of the challenges we're going to face? I hear a lot of people say, no, we need to meet face to face, and I don't want to work through a computer. And I think there is this big movement towards wellness and how we take care of ourselves. So our mental wellness, our physical wellness, and I think we're going to start to prioritize that. And we'd be selecting places where we're happier, we're fitter, we're healthier, we're eating better food, and we're still able to work and manage stress. And I think this is like a hot topic. And I think a lot of the successful startups, including where I work right now, really understand how important that is, so that these ventures thrive. The wellness of the team, how well they are, how happy they are, how to get the best out of them. It's not about squeezing people to death, right? Making them work long hours.
Right.
It's about getting the best out of them. And I think this is a really interesting topic. And and how do we help them get there? How do we help people become happier? How do we help people learn to meditate and exercise and still manage a full workload and perform at a high level? I think that's one of the biggest challenges right now.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, that's a topic that I just love, meditation, and I live in Thailand in the winters, where I really reconnect with just simpleness and having an easier life. And then in the summers I go to Europe, and it becomes more hectic, and so I try to balance it out as much as I can. And I think you're absolutely right. I think that in the next 5 to 10 years, it will be all about wellness and how much you take care of yourself. And I'm a big proponent of networking face to face, although business itself should be done, as digitally as possible. But in terms of relationships, I'm very, very much in favor of having a face to face and having a meal and a drink or whatever, a coffee, and that's when you form the basics of being a human, I suppose. Well, Karim, thank you so much. It's been really a pleasure talking to you. You're full of wisdom, and I'm sure that I would love to have you on again. And as soon as I get to Dubai, I'd love to have a coffee, tea, or a drink, or something with you.
We'll have a drink for sure, Mario. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Karim. Thank you.
Bye-bye.